Drink Tank. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Drink Tank.
It's called wait, is that? I don't know if I liked that one.
It's called Drink Tank. I already made the graphic for it and everything.
Didn't I have a good idea?
Drink Tank was the one we came up with when we did the Last of Us video. You, Plumber, and myself, and we just kind of rolled with it, and I made the graphic of the two brains drinking beer. Very quickly.
I'll have to rewatch that one because I might have had a better idea at that time.
So anyways, I am joined by, everybody may remember.
They may remember.
Oh. If they're just joining us, this is Maynard Bangs.
We've had a lot of stuff on the channel in between since I've been here.
Maybe. I don't know.
Bunch of that plum dog stuff.
So anyways, I'm joined by Maynard Bangs, co-host of the international hit series Trailer Trashed.
That is true.
Also, pretty much the creative force behind Reels of Justice.
I don't know about creative force.
Who else does the editing?
Ben.
Ben does?
Yeah,
Oh,
a little bit.
amazing.
Little bit.
Good for you, Ben.
A little bit. I'd give him the damn it, who's Affleck's little buddy?
Matt Damon?
Yeah, I'd give him the Matt Damon share of the creative credit on editing.
Sure. So we recently, yesterday, we went to go see the new movie Godzilla -1. And we're here to do a quick little review and talk about it. So I think we'll start off, we'll do a little spoiler-free, quick synopsis of the film.
Spoiler-free synopsis? I don't know.
Yeah, just like this, it's the...
How do I give a spoiler-free synopsis?
Like, just like the beginning
Not
of the movie.
synopsis, then, is it?
Well, then it's...
So basically what the trailer was like, don't know, didn't watch the trailer.
Okay, so the basic setup here is, Mr. Snooty, is that it's the waning days of World War II. Japan knows it's losing. There's a young guy, he's a kamikaze pilot. He fakes a malfunction in his plane so he can land it. While landing, there is there's a whole emergency repair field station.
Yeah, Odo Island.
Yeah, Odo Island.
And there's the repairs.
And then there's the head guy there says we couldn't find anything wrong with your plane, but I think we need more young men like you who are willing to live for Japan, not die for it. Later that night, the island gets attacked by a young Godzilla.
Basically, it's a Godzillasaurus, right? It's a non-mutated Godzilla yet. It hasn't been hit by any bombs, really, so it hasn't mutated. So this is basically a retelling of the scene from Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, which was the Heisei origin of that Godzilla.
So he then goes back to Japan. It's post-war Japan. Everything has been destroyed in the war.
Not a happy place.
It's not a happy place. And they attempt to essentially... rebuild their lives, but then it's a Godzilla movie. Godzilla shows up, and it's pretty much it. It's pretty much the premise. How does Japan deal with Godzilla in the wake of World War II, having lost all of its military, essentially, having been forced to turn over a lot of its navy? It doesn't have an air force, so to speak. It doesn't.
Which is the underlying theme of the 50s and 60s monster movies.
Right.
Is that how do we fight monsters and we don't have any real military?
So
they've always had the defense force.
Exactly, and in this one
which had maser cannons though, pretty sick. Great peacekeeping force. Bring out the lasers.
This is kind of an alternate history of what sort of happened to Japan after World War II. So there's no Godzilla in real life, unfortunately. Well, or fortunately, depends on your stance. I don't want to make it seem like I'm advocating for genocide. I'm just advocating for Godzilla.
I don't know if it would be I don't think he would have the ability to pick people out by race to eliminate them.
No, but the comment section
just a massacre.
could. Yeah, the comment section would. Oh, you don't like? No. So overall, I'm gonna go ahead and say I actually quite enjoyed this film more than I was expecting. One of the things that I tried to avoid almost everything I could on it, but it's so hard to avoid certain.
I'm in all the Godzilla groups. I'm in all the Godzilla chats.
And one of the things I kept hearing was, and I was because you and I were talking about this yesterday, I was if I hear it's such an uplifting tale of humanity one more time, it's I hate the humans in these movies. They're always stupid. They're always doing dumb things. And I was shocked to actually walk out of the movie and agree this is truly an uplifting tale of the human condition. I was impressed.
I need some more viewings of it.
I was
Am I allowed to
impressed.
spoiler yet?
No, let's just say whether we'd recommend it or not.
I'd recommend it. Of course I'd recommend it.
I'd recommend it.
Like, absolutely. I'll even put this in my top 10 Godzilla movies, I think. I think I need to see it a few more times to find out where.
I agree with you.
But I think it'll land in the top 10.
I don't think it's cracking 5 for me.
Not cracking 5
It's not cracking the top 5, but I do think I can put it in my top 10.
And that's been my personal struggle lately.
Well, I really like I said,
5 for me.
I liked the human characters a lot.
See, I didn't.
I did.
But I'm
really
cool with that because I never do.
Right.
Right?
And by the way, if you're Godzilla, if you're curious of how like the characters are, there are 0 psychics in this movie, whether that's a selling point or not.
None who will talk about it.
Yeah, but I enjoyed.
All right, if there's no I can't get it without into psychics because I think the young guy in the boat is a psychic. Otherwise, how do you know how to bring tugboats? Or what were they going to do with all those tugboats unless there was a very specific tugboat problem that needs to be solved by tugboats? He's clearly a psychic because he knew exactly when to show up with exactly what they needed.
Okay, so hold on. Let me say one more thing before, and then we'll jump in. We'll jump into spoilers because
it's a good B movie.
Because it is a good B movie. It's a great way to describe it.
That's been my thesis statement.
It's
good B movie.
It's a good B movie. It's an interesting take on the reconstruction of Japan after World War II. I overall liked a lot of the characters. I liked the sense of camaraderie between them. I liked them because I actually felt. I had enough tension where it's like, I kind of like these guys. I'd really hate to see them die.
So I don't have that because...
Interesting.
Again, he's a kamikaze pilot, so he's kind of a jerk. The only reason he didn't go through with it is because the war was ending.
Which I like.
And
I like that angle.
It would have meant nothing. But had the war not ended, dude would have been glad to go crash into a bunch of Americans or Soviets. He'd have been happy to do it.
Yeah.
At the end of the war, they had, I think I was just reading about it, they had like something like 5,000 pilots.
Yeah.
5,000 kamikaze pilots and planes, I think 9,000 planes, still ready to go.
Okay.
So the whole thing of this movie, right?
Right.
People keep going, "You're a kamikaze pilot?
But
why are you still alive?" It's like, a bunch of dudes
It happens like once.
Didn't ever have to go.
So, but that's...
No, because when he mentions he was a kamikaze pilot to the core people on the boat, they have the same reaction that the neighbor does.
Only the one guy does. Only the one guy's upset.
But then we never see anyone else mentioned. I think we can all presume they'd all take it like that.
I think that's. I don't think so. I think this movie, if somebody was going to be upset about it, we would have got to see that because we did get to see.
I'm just saying.
But anyways,
am I in spoilers yet?
I want to just.
There's tugboats, by the way.
There are tugboats.
Spoilers, tugboats.
I haven't seen the trailer. Maybe it's in there. But anyways, yeah, I would recommend.
Was it in the trailer?
I don't know. I didn't see the trailer. So yes, I recommend it. I personally, I like the human stuff a lot more than I was expecting. There is some cool action sequences. I thought Godzilla.
Did like the action.
I thought Godzilla himself was appropriately monstrous. The CG is variable, but to be honest, most movies we get nowadays have variable CG. Like most of our big budget, like $300 million movies, the CG doesn't look as good as it does in Godzilla. And Godzilla cost what? Anywhere from 15 to 30 million? You did tell me it wasn't
that much.
15 to 30 million.
Yeah.
So
personally, I don't think any CGI looks good, but I don't think. There's not much Godzilla does in this movie that he hasn't done before in a suit. He's walked through cities before. Right. And possibly the whole regeneration thing, that could have just been done with CGI. And he still could have been a suit. Like, it could have been a suit,
we've
and then you can use...
regeneration with the suit. Because we've seen chunks get blown off and get repaired.
Yes.
Yeah.
It can be a suit, and then you can use CGI to blow it up.
Like a rotoscope or,
yes,
or like
make
how
it
they do
as
Andy
big as a
Serkis Planet of the
battleship.
Apes or something.
Right.
Godzilla is fairly small in this one.
The thing is that the suits are a core part of the genre and the franchise. I just don't see a reason to leave it behind. It would be like... Well, to be funny, I was like, it would be like if they did the Muppets animated, and they did. Yeah. They did Muppet Babies. And it's like, well, why would you? Yeah. You know, it's like, why would you do a CGI Muppets? We're here to see the puppet. I'm here to see the suit. I want to see the miniatures.
And those are some fair,
you can do them.
Those are some fair criticisms.
Final Wars isn't that old.
No, and those are some fair criticisms on it.
Do a mix.
You can
do
mix
CGI when it's hard.
Give something for that.
Do a suit so the kids can come up and meet the suit and shake his hand.
But like I was saying, overall, I enjoyed it.
I did too. Positive. I'm trying to be so positive. But I'm the bad cop in this. I have to be the bad cop because I'm not hearing bad things about the movie. Okay. And there are
There are quite a few bad things, and in order,
for instance,
hold on, we're gonna jump into spoilers now.
Now it's spoilers.
Well, because
spoilers. Can you have a graphic that comes down? It's like bars that come down.
You want bars that come down to say spoilers? Sometimes.
Well, it's like a police lockdown, but it's like spoilers, and like the spoilers are locked right in this section.
I usually just take a clip from the song "Butterfly" by Crazy Town and say it's Spoiler Town. But no, I'm not doing bars.
Well, it's your drink tank. Yeah. Reason I'm not the creative force behind Drink Tank.
Look, I already said spoilers, probably just in a very lazy text graphic.
We've made it clear now, though.
Yeah. But, okay, so when we're saying it's a good B movie, there's a lot I did like about it, but there's also some things that are just truly...
It's a very good B movie.
It's a very good B movie.
I'd call it a great B movie. I'd call it an excellent B movie.
I'm not going so far.
Okay, see, I'm more generous.
You are a little more generous, but that's because like to me, like a B movie is like your Evil Deads and stuff like that. It's like, you know, like it's just there's so much charm in it. This doesn't have as much charm as like a regular B movie.
Goal is entertainment over something artistic. And I don't think there's anywhere near as much substance here as maybe even the movie thinks there is.
I think there's enough here to make an argument that everything that's happening post-war has value. Now, what's interesting is I was reading about this.
That's great for citizens of Japan who have to reckon with their personal history.
So I think okay, I'm glad you were going to bring that up because they were trying to get this movie made, and then pandemic and shutdown happened, and so a little distrust of government flow of information during COVID is what plays part of the role, because you know it's like, well, they don't trust what the government's saying. They're very distrustful. Because
I like that,
and I think that is something that a lot of people can kind of relate to. Not necessarily the post-war Japan being like shut down communications. We have to maintain, you know, like keep some face here and stuff like that. But I think that idea that like something terrible could be happening not that far from us, but you can't really trust any information coming either into or out of the government. Like we were talking about the one part where Tachibana shows up there again at the end. Tachibana, and he's like, oh, we gotta fight Godzilla, and he's like the same Godzilla from before, and you're like, well, surely he knows, but they imply earlier in the movie that like they've really locked down the flow of information across Japan. So if he's way out in the boonies,
but he'd already blown up Ginza. It was a nuclear bomb.
Yeah, but how far did Japan let that information go outside of its general vicinity? We don't know how far into the countryside it could have got.
How much word of mouth you
right, but also,
you know, gag orders are gag orders, but then word of mouth still happens.
Now that we're talking like full-on spoilers, that whole Ginza territory thing or whatever, I hated it. I thought it was so dumb.
That sequence is...
It's cartoonish.
Here's
a brief rundown. If you guys, those of you who have seen it, or those of you who don't care about spoilers, the main guy, upon coming back from his...
Shikishima, I believe.
Yeah. Coming back from his failed career as a kamikaze pilot. He's
one career you want to flunk out of.
Failed upwards on that one. So he ends up running into like this girl is running around with a baby. They call her a thief. They call her a thief. She throws the baby at him. She doesn't throw it at him. Puts it in his arms. He sits with the baby for a while.
Why did she do that?
It doesn't matter. And so then when he goes to leave, he's like, oh God, I can't just leave the kid. So he walks out. The girl finds him, and they kind of form like a non-traditional, non-nuclear family unit.
Wow, I love it.
Thank you. So she quickly starts to realize that he's got a ton of PTSD. And this movie does not shy away from it, but I would have liked more of it because we only get like 2 scenes kind of him having full-on freakouts.
I hated the freakouts
because it wasn't enough. Because they were awkward.
Because he did the same thing twice, where he did "Am I Dead?"
Yeah.
What if I died? Like when he did it the second time, it was really long. So those couple of scenes, I left those on the cutting room floor because those were where the melodrama was highest.
Him having nightmares is all we need. You can show us like 2 nightmare sequences, we get it.
And to me, his things were very one note. Well, they were 2 note. He either did the real dead stare or he did the big freak out.
Some of his dead stares were pretty good, though.
Yes.
They're what it was
called
for.
However, I have absorbed a lot of dead stare crazy Japanese live action taku, and this guy doesn't even crack my top 50 in crazy stares.
So the girl goes to get an office job at kind of like the redeveloped, it's very Western Ginza district. Like there's like rail cars and everybody wears suits and it's more Western style. And Godzilla he's playing with like his daughter, and they hear that Godzilla's made landfall in Ginza, and he's going to. I again apologize if I'm mispronouncing any of this.
It is Ginza, I think.
And so he freaks out because he's like, "Oh no, the girl I love but haven't admitted it to is Ginza. Yeah, sure. Oh my God, that's where she works." And then we cut to her on a train. And Godzilla does an attack sequence. He picks up the train with his mouth. She's the only person who stays in the train. Everybody else falls out right away. And I'm like, no.
She hangs from a bar like a gymnast.
From a bar.
I want her to do this.
No, because remember at first she's holding onto the seat, and then she drops and catches it.
Yes, I'm like, wow, she's a gymnast. She's really
a gymnast. Good. And then she drops straight into the water, and they drop a whole train right next to her. She's fine. Smash cut to her wandering.
Oh, she's indestructible. We'll get into that. She is unfucking kill. Godzilla isn't half as unkillable as this woman.
No, seriously.
Not even fucking close.
So then they show her drop in the water, and then they smash cut to her walking the street.
Dead stare,
wet.
And the dead stare.
Godzilla comes walking up behind casually. All of a sudden,
Shikishima, the pilot.
Yeah, Shikishima, the pilot. He comes running out of the crowd and finds her. He's like, "I'm glad I found you." And you and I in the theater could not stop laughing. We just were like, we couldn't stop laughing at the absurd. We were laughing during the train. We were laughing when she started walking down the street.
Evacuation panic.
We're laughing when he finds her.
And he finds her in the middle of the street? Hell no. And then also tell me, what are the odds that the kamikaze pilot, spoilers to the end, but the kamikaze pilot who's got this big problem with Godzilla, this huge history of the Godzilla, one of his only survivors, the guy who eventually goes on to be a big figure in combating him, oh, his girlfriend Godzilla once picked up and looked at real close? What are the fucking odds?
It was so bad.
This is a thing they've been doing. The legendary movies do it all the time, where kaiju look right at a person. Like, do you walk around and look at an ant real close to menace it? No, you just trample them. You don't notice them.
I'm going to say with one example that I liked when that happened. I liked it in the Gareth Edwards one, where Godzilla had fallen down and he's at street level.
Yes, because he fell down.
He sees the guy and then he's like, better get back to it. Yeah. You know, I felt like a really cool hero rise moment for Godzilla.
And there's a couple times where Kong does it, and Kong is a more intelligent monster. He has a history of noticing you.
We're not even done with the craziest things that have happened
yet. Not even close.
So they're running from Godzilla. He activates his atomic blast, which I thought
love the atomic blast in this. Don't
the pistons.
That's gonna make such a good toy, and you know that's the only reason they did it.
No, I think they did it to make it look like nuclear rods. Like, you know,
I like that
when nuclear rods get heated and stuff,
but
the toy's gonna be sick too.
It's gonna be a good toy.
I didn't think of that. I thought of nuclear rods.
You have to remember, because I watch all the live action stuff, and what they do now. Remember back in the day when weapons and stuff didn't look like the toys?
Right.
In the show, they look like the toys. They look plastic and fake. So that when you buy it, it's an exact replica. They're sitting there swinging plastic-looking swords, making really metallic clang sounds. So love the pistol, everything they do. Yeah. They definitely think about the toy. That's going to be a great...
His breath was also by far the one that I think read most nuclear to me.
Yeah, and I like it hitting.
It hitting and then doing the cloud. I thought that was cool. Good imagery.
Yep.
So he does this. Right, Godzilla does this sweet nuclear breath attack, and it just starts causing this huge shockwave of debris, as it would. And what does she do?
By the way, these shockwaves...
Not subtle.
They're not little bursts of just air. No. They're several thousand degrees. Mm-hmm. The core of the blast gets up to like 10 million degrees. This hot air coming it's hot.
Yeah.
It melts steel. It burns brick. Besides throwing it.
But you can avoid it if somebody pushes you into an alleyway.
If you're pushed into an alleyway right by a cornerstone, luckily these cornerstones, indestructible. They're made out of
strong Japanese women.
The only reason at the time in the theater, him surviving that didn't bug me that much was it was almost like a cosmic joke at that point.
Right.
Fate will just kill everyone around you, but never you.
And he actually does comment on that later in the movie. Yes. He brings it up.
So I like that. I'm like, okay, you survived, and it's totally stupid and ridiculous. But let's see where you're going. But at that point, she's dead.
The girl goes flying.
She's vaporized.
I'm not sure if I can find the footage of this, because it's not a casual matter.
No,
it's not.
Debris goes flying, and then when he walks out the alley, you can see it knocked over buildings for miles.
The streets are covered in debris.
120-pound woman. Mm-hmm. who would have been thrown
and like,
miles, eviscerated,
debris
vaporized.
Or even if you're saying, okay, she's not vaporized instantly, that debris is shredding her. She's gonna get crushed by any and everything because there are chunks of debris in that explosion. And there's a part
the deadest thing ever.
And I don't know if we're being subtle, but she didn't die because there's this
There's
this part at the end where like he goes off to
do we get there Can we get there naturally? Can we keep?
Oh, you want to just keep going? All right.
Kind of through it, or do we just jump into?
Because it's like her character arc.
Because the thing is, at this point,
I'm following through.
I don't think she has a character arc, and that's my biggest problem with it. All right, I want you to tell me 3 things about her character without mentioning any other character in the movie.
She's very crafty, but people are often defined by their interactions with other people. We see her being crafty.
I think she's not crafty, she's resourceful.
Crafty.
Like she's honest.
We can split the, but.
I'm saying she's more honest she's not deceitful.
She's a bit of a romantic. She is a bit of a romantic. And she is kind of a loving character too. I mean, the romantic in the terms of like, she's like, oh, this is kind of our family. But I mean, like, she's also a loving character in that she really wants to do well by them. Like, she gets the job and she's kind of like teasing a little bit. It's like, you'll never get a wife. I should probably get ready. And it's like, and we know what she's doing. We've seen it.
Yeah.
And it's just she gets enough to do. But this is one of those things that keeps it from like, I would have loved a much more focused romance story on the two of them. I had no problem with it.
To me, she felt like a foil, and she existed to explain how this guy couldn't love, or wouldn't love,
or just another thing for him to lose.
And she became another thing to lose. And so when she dies, I went, oh, that kind of sucks. But you know what? I guess I should have seen this coming because she was only set up for him to lose like everything else he'd had.
Right. So he loses everything.
Yeah, and so, but I still kind of felt the little gut punch. And when you kill off a character,
for the character too.
And when you kill off and I feel really bad for the little girl, like the little daughter going, "Where's my?" That is really what I like. I felt way worse for the little girl over and over. Who
I felt pretty bad that they kept putting her on screen when the little girl has no idea how to act. Like when she has to hand
so
it.
Cute.
Like
that was so cute.
It's so awkward, but it is adorable.
It's ever seen.
It's so awkward.
If you just give something to a little kid, they have to shove it into you with their chubby little arm. Here you go, father, have it. Fucking right into your face. Loved her. Yeah. She was excellent. No complaints about the little girl at all because she was nothing but adorable and pure. And I didn't want her to lose anyone. No. That's the only reason I really cared about I'm like, no, I don't leave the little girl now. Like, she needs somebody.
He gets a job working for the government.
Oh, that's way earlier, where they're
cleaning mine sweeping. Well, it's important because he ends up with
which is cool.
I was calling him like the Core 4 kind of thing. You got the boat.
It's the Jaws boat, folks.
It's Jaws boat.
It's Jaws.
But it's good.
It is good, but it is obviously Jaws.
Well, obviously.
Which is fun. It's fun.
But to be honest, the little bit I had seen of like teaser trailers when it shows Godzilla chasing a boat, I was like, I don't like this. I did not like it in the trailers, and I ended up really liking it in the movie because I like those guys.
That's true, and I need time on it. The thing is, we understand that maybe his beam, he can't use it at will. It might actually need to recharge.
Right.
And so that might explain why he doesn't just eradicate that boat.
He also probably thought it was too small a target. Let's be honest.
He chased it.
Yeah, he did. But until then, it had done nothing really to him except annoy him.
That is, another compliment to the movie. What I like is the Godzilla-saurus at the beginning never really hurts anyone till the pilots open fire. So in this case, humans attacked Godzilla first.
They did.
And then you bombed him.
Yeah.
And made it worse.
It made him so much worse.
That's what I do like. It was like, what? Godzilla doesn't feel evil, which I think is always...
He feels very animalistic reactionary. Because notice he doesn't even use the energy breath until...
Although he has an angry look, and again, that's...
The warship.
I'd rather him be more indifferent.
So he furrowed his brow in a vain attempt to understand
That's Godzilla 1985. His brow is furrowed the whole time. His picture's right here. You can see it.
Birds.
I just watched it last night. It's great.
Birds. So, but like he doesn't even use the radiation breath until the warship,
the cruiser,
really lays into him, and then he's like, "All right, I'm done here. No more playing." Things like that. He doesn't use like his radiation breath until he's been properly agitated and
he
provoked.
sinks a bunch of ships, which is cool. Very Godzilla. He sinks ships. Yeah. Sure as hell does.
But I enjoyed...
I like the fish coming up.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I liked the boat crew a lot. I thought they were neat. I liked the doctor, you know.
The Jaws stuff is fun.
The whole movie is about these... They were all in the...
There's not
they
a
were
ton
all in the
you get
Japanese
to know
military.
about, like...
You get
the
to know
doctor's
enough.
smart. The young one...
He developed weapons for the Japanese military.
Yeah, you do know he's an engineer.
When the movie... Then when the war ends, he's like, all right, well, now it's my job to go out and, like, I got to dismantle everything.
Personal responsibility was a great theme throughout this movie, and
right?
Somebody's got to do it.
Right. Why not us?
Saying that.
They said that.
Somebody's got to
do it. And when the military refused to get involved because they said it was going to provoke a response from the United States and Russia.
Do they not know there's a giant lizard? Like,
absolutely not.
We have pictures of this fucking thing.
This isn't like you're taking your fleet out and doing combat maneuvers near Russia. There's a giant monster that people are well aware of.
Yeah, we're like, come look.
Yeah, well aware. They were chasing it, and they're like, oh, the U.S. says if they bring any warships to Japan, it'll provoke the Soviets. And I'm like, no,
we're clearly here for the lizard.
So it's forced, but it does allow all the former soldiers who really, because they really go into the fact that like anybody who served in the military in Japan feels very unfulfilled and a little lost in the wake of the war. They were disillusioned by their government. They're disillusioned by the military. But they find that the skill set that they learned while serving allows them to become men of action and go out and try and stop this ridiculous threat that not even the government is raising a hand to help them with. And it's like, so it looks like it's up to us. And I really enjoyed like that town hall scene where they're like, and that's where the guy's like, if somebody's got to do it, why not us?
Yep.
And so there's a lot of good moments.
And that's a very Honda type theme going on into his career. Not something that was so much in the first Godzilla, but something that he infused into a lot of his later movies because he regretted how he ended the first Godzilla. He regretted that it's all put on one man dying to stop this thing when... Like this movie suggests, no, you should live and you should love to stop these things and you should cooperate to solve problems.
Right.
That's like why he made Mothra, like where the monster's not even a monster, right? And the man's the problem. And humans cooperate to solve the problem.
Yeah, this one really, Godzilla, is more of an obstacle.
Yeah.
And a monstrous obstacle, but truly an obstacle. And I really enjoyed... They came up with a kind of creative way to try and like get rid of Godzilla. I thought that was interesting enough.
I did like it.
I don't know if it had worked, if I would have been happy with it.
So they were gonna. One, I thought it was silly. Could they not have used planes? They were going to use battleships to wrap these chains around Godzilla. Although we know Godzilla's really good at sinking ships, so that just doesn't seem like a great plan to me on paper even. But maybe the stuff's so heavy you can't fly it in. I don't know. But anyway, once they wrap him in, they can pump Freon into the salt water, which I guess makes it fresh water, and he
it just takes away the buoyancy of it. So
because I think it pushes the salt out, so it drops his buoyancy. It would force him to just plummet down basically to this trench. And they hope they'll crush him with pressure, which I would have liked to kind of see it look like it should have worked, but overall, I would think no amount of pressure would do it.
There should have been like a little bit of like a blood cloud come out of his mouth or something, like, so we could have seen because he goes under and all we see is all the lights turn off.
And then they have plan B, which is good that they had one, which is to quickly then inflate him, shooting him up to the surface, which basically gives him the bends.
The bends. They're giving him the bends.
But I don't know if that's an instant die thing or you just don't feel good for a while.
Yeah, I don't know. For a creature that size, I don't know.
And then what happens is the plan, he chews through it, so it stops climbing halfway at 800 and stays there for minutes.
It is an indeterminate amount of time, but we have to assume enough time for a whole fleet of tugboats.
50 tugboats to tie themselves to the battleship.
2 other ships.
Minimum an hour, I gotta think.
It's fine.
Not only for the tugboats to come in, turn around, tie up,
spread
everyone go. By this time, his blood level must have been pretty, which we see it doesn't work. When they finally pull him up, it doesn't work. Which finally allows us to go to
if Godzilla can, and then Plan C.
You'll finish your point about.
Well, I was gonna say it's like, do we even? Because I'm pretty sure when they show us the first Godzilla, when he's attacking Odo Island, I thought I saw gills.
The early one does not have gills, no.
I thought he did. But he brings up deep sea fish with him. Now, what do they consider deep sea fish?
But Godzilla
How deep is deep?
Absolutely lives deep sea. He lives in trenches.
Exactly.
He does that in a lot of movies.
But the humans, they have nothing to go on except for the fact that the villagers on the island say he brings deep sea fish. So forgivable, but like I don't think anybody was super optimistic about the plan. I don't think
they haven't seen every Godzilla movie like I have, so they wouldn't know that plan's maybe not that great.
Right. No, like I said, it's forgivable for them in the movie.
Yeah.
It's like this is the best option we have. We don't have a lot of resources. We have a very deep bay. And we got a couple ships that we have yet to turn over to the UN. This is what we can try.
But now the other guy's plan seems a lot more practical, right? The kamikaze. So what he's going to do
load up the plane with bombs.
He says, get a plane ready for me, and I'm just going to distract him. But secretly, he's like totally beyond lost with grief.
Yep.
Because his girl absolutely got vaporized. I mean, she got hit by a nuclear sonic blast.
Plus, he's carrying the photos of everybody who died on Toho Island due to his perceived inaction.
Mm-hmm. So he is going to die to kill Godzilla. So he's going to call up the old mechanic, Takebana.
Yeah.
Who gets this small little redemption thing he'll get there where he'll get to kind of make it up to that guy.
Guy from the beginning comes through at the end.
That.
I like those things.
And they know that and they go, why does it have to be him?
And he is very adamant.
Yeah.
Well, he also knows that nobody else will replace like a couple of the guns in the fuel tank with bombs.
Yeah,
he needs the guy who hates him to replace everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess we should mention too, because Takebana is mad too, because not only does Godzilla, when he attacks, the guy, the pilot, could have shot at him with a 30mm gun, and it might have killed Godzilla at that point.
It probably
was not mutated. He might have. So his inaction does open up the door for what happens later. Anyway, it makes sense. So he's going to load it up with bombs, and he's going to fly it into Godzilla's mouth.
Yeah, and because at the beginning, when Godzilla's chasing their boat, they were tasked with distracting Godzilla long enough to bring the warship could get back.
Yeah.
So they're using mines to try and damage him. And so they drop a mine, it blows up on the outside, no big deal. They get one in the mouth, shoot it, blows off half of Godzilla's head.
It's really cool, I liked that.
And then slowly we watch Godzilla's head refuse into a scene where I leaned forward in the theater and I was like, oh shit. It was awesome. So he's like, but then Godzilla has a scar the whole time.
Yes, I really enjoyed that his face changed after that.
And that's why they were saying, hey, guess what? If we can blow him up from the inside, I think we have a better chance of actually killing him or doing severe damage enough to him if we can do damage on the inside, not the outside.
I think their idea is that if they can destroy Godzilla's brain, he can't regenerate anymore.
Right, if they blow his head off, he's dead.
Not a bad idea. They don't know that actually won't work, but
the movie does, because that's the last thing they show you is one of his cells sinking and then starting to regrow. And
not even one. That's basically the corpse.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Anyway, so he lands in the mouth. That pause where he comes in. I mean, we know he's coming in because Godzilla's about to beam and kill everyone we love in the movie, except that pilot. Where'd he go? And he flies in.
Yes, it's very traditional, but it works.
And so then there's this weird thing. So this plane does have an ejector seat. Now this guy's playing the kamikaze in, though, right? He's gonna kamikaze in. Takebana, we see earlier in the movie Takebana say, pull this lever.
Right, it'll activate the bomb.
Arm the bombs. And you're like, it's secretly the ejector seat.
I thought it was secret.
Which I really like, right? Because Takebana would think his final redemption is that he should want to die. Because, it or not, if you agreed to be a kamikaze pilot in war, you need to go through with it.
I don't think they had much choice to agree or disagree. I think you were press ganged into it.
Yeah, you agreed to it. You did it. And not just because you were going to get beat up,
it would be very dishonorable not to. And,
it's, you don't, I feel pretty sure it was a voluntary thing. You didn't have to go do that.
I don't know. I don't know enough about it.
I was just researching. It's not an old program. They don't start doing it until mid 44.
Well, because didn't he say at one point that then they made him a kamikaze pilot? Like he didn't volunteer for it. I don't know.
I mean, maybe he wasn't a good enough pilot, so they went, here's where you're most
expendable
useful.
Loss, yeah. Congratulations on your promotion.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's what I thought. But then it turned out that after he gets in, he does eject out. We all expect him to eject out. But it turned out Takebana actually told him about the ejector seat.
Yes.
And told him to switch and say choose live, which
It's because he saw he was still carrying around all the photos of the dead guys he had given him at the beginning of the movie. He saw that he was still haunted by...
He was guilty for doing the wrong thing.
And he was still haunted by it. And that was him, because one of the things they say is like, the war's not over for me. And some of the other people, like, the war's not over for us either. And so that was kind of like, that was Tachibana as being like, now the war's over for me. If I can help this guy kill this monster and keep him alive, the war's over for me.
It's interesting.
So that's the perfect bookend for that character. I like the idea of him tricking him into saving himself. That would have been my preference.
I prefer it being a trick.
I was so sure of it, I actually leaned over and told you during the movie. I was like,
we're probably annoying as crap, but there weren't very many people in our theater.
No.
So. But yeah, I would prefer to have been a secret because I would like Tachibana to show that he's redeemed himself in his eyes, but not until he goes all the way through with the final moment. And for
it's like
me,
the price of your conviction now is you live.
And I thought that kind of the catharsis would be, I'm finally going to go through with my duty and be willing to die, but there is a catch and I don't die. Yeah. But I was willing to.
Right.
And that's the honor, and that's what
And so while he's going on this
which
mission,
again to me is this Japanese legacy they have to deal with their kamikaze pilots and with their ritualistic suicide stuff that I don't have any buy-in or feel about.
I think that the movie does a good enough job of showing us that like he's ashamed of it, and that's enough purchase for me. That's enough of a foothold for me into the mindset of it. And then of course like his trauma about getting everybody, his guilt of everybody dying on Odo Island through his inaction. It's enough. I don't need, this isn't like a sprawling epic where it's like I need an Academy Award winning acting. You know, I need enough purchase to understand
Good B movie.
What the characters are about, what drives them forward. Then I need people for him to interact with so we see different facets of the personality.
Pow! Godzilla's head is blown off.
But before he goes on the suicide mission, he leaves the daughter with a satchel full of money and a note for the neighbor.
Yeah, why not just leave
it with the neighbor? She knows he's going on this. It's like everybody knows you're going on this mission. It's like it felt so wildly out of place that like why wasn't the daughter spending the night at the neighbor's?
Yeah.
So you could have just disappeared in the night,
right?
Because everybody knows you're doing this.
She's like 2. Why would you leave her in your home alone,
unattended? Yeah, I don't get it. And so while they're off doing that, a telegram shows up, and the old woman from across the street who hated him at the beginning and now has grown to kind of like him, looks at it and goes, oh, and I lean over again. Like, normally we don't talk this much during movies. I'm not going to lie. It sounds like we're talking during the movie a lot, but we normally don't. But at this point, I was like, dude, Noriko's still alive. She's been in like a coma or something this whole time. And he just goes, no.
No way. No fucking way.
Yep.
They
find her in a hospital at the end of the movie.
I gotta tell you, anyone
all bandaged up.
I can't ever get over that. Like Jurassic Park 3 got shit endlessly for killing a character off screen,
right?
Where his survival was just improbable, but he survived, and everyone was like, "Stupid." Spielberg's War of the Worlds, where they killed a character off screen, but his survival's improbable. When they bring back, oh bullshit, it's a cop out. This is the big... She was eviscerated by a fucking nuclear blast. It crushed bricks. And you know what her injuries are? Less than a year later, a little bandage on the face. Like a clunk on the noggin. Face still beautiful. Like, she shouldn't have skin or flesh or anything.
Yeah, there should have been, like, some really deep scar marking and stuff.
Did they not see Terminator 2 and Linda Hamilton on the fence? That's what she'd be like at the end. Skin blowing off like leaves.
There should have at least been, like, discolored skin where they would have had to stitch it together.
It had been thousands of degrees.
Well, I don't even beyond the heat, because let's say, like, you want to make an argument
the blast. And then let's not talk about radiation poisoning that she and Shikishima would have had.
They all have radiation poisoning. I'm convinced. I just don't think they talked about it in the movie, but I am convinced everybody in that movie
all gonna die.
has radiation poisoning.
Hair's going to start falling out.
There's so much radiation. I mean, like, when those guys were... It's so funny because they didn't know that much. So the guys
Look how fast the fish died being anywhere near that thing.
The guys were in the suits, and they're like, you see them, and they're like doing Geiger kind of stuff, but they don't wear like masks or helmets because they wouldn't have known at the time.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have known.
Yeah. Well, and that's back in the...
Yeah, that's in 50s. That was in the late 40s.
Yeah,
this one's late 40s because it's what, 44, 45, 46, 47?
I think 45 the war ends, but I think most of his actions are placed in like 46.
Yeah, 46, 47. It's 46, 47-ish, yeah.
They haven't reconstructed too well.
But
which is interesting to pull it up that, because Godzilla's other appearance, it's 54 originally, but here they've moved it almost 10 years.
It makes sense though.
Sooner.
I kind of like it.
Well,
if it's because they wanted to do the story about all the Japanese men having trauma from the war, they wanted to do that because they kept it real fresh. The young guy who says it's a shame I never got to see any action. You can only do that within a small window.
Right.
And then again, just like the government kind of bailing on the Japanese people during this time because they're busy dismantling the military.
I'm pretty sure
I like it.
Very quickly, I mean, obviously Japan knows their history. I'd want someone who knows this history really well. But I thought right after the war, there was essentially a U.S. provincial government in place that...
Well, this is why this is like I think this is like an alternate history version of it.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
But our Navy would have... I think our Navy
we would have
was
gone to
stationed
fight
there.
the thing.
Well, because they do have that line.
Anyway.
They do have that catch-all line, though, where they say MacArthur expresses remorse over not being able to support Japan. So that's where it's like a deviation in history, I'm pretty sure. That being said, though, we still had military interests in like the Philippines, so that would have been a very big threat to us.
Right.
Not to say anything of what a threat it would have been to Russia. That's on their doorstep.
It sank a U.S. ship.
It sank a U.S. ship and we didn't respond.
We're going to kill
no
that
U.S. response.
We're going to kill that
was U.S.
thing.
response. Yeah. No, they sank a U.S. warship and there was no response from America.
Hell no.
Doesn't matter. It's not an American story.
Mess
It's not
with
a
America?
global story.
We're gonna get our Nazi scientists to shoot this dinosaur into the moon.
They should have cut out the American warship thing. It's unimportant and confusing. They should have... Man,
the thing is, I don't mind if the girl survives. You could have killed her off screen. She could have, like when she's on the train and she just looks up and then Godzilla's there. And then we cut to that guy just showing up and finding the whole place leveled.
Yeah.
And he assumes that she's dead.
Correct. And then you could say they found her in the wreckage, but she was in a coma.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
Okay. She got a little bump on the noggin. She gets the whole Raymond Burr treatment. Okay. The little wrap around the head, and she...
But I mean, to show us so graphically how she was dead.
Blown away.
There's so many mistakes. Like, those mistakes are just too... We were laughing. Like, we were laughing at it because it's just so improbable and cartoonish and over the top.
Can I finally do my nitpick? And this is a nitpick. This is a Godzilla nerd thing. When he attacks Ginza, they do a needle drop of some old Ifukube music, right? He's the guy who scored all the old music. This is a common thing. They've been doing the old music. They did it in Final Wars. They did it in Shin Godzilla. They like to throw in the old music. I'm totally cool with it. And this particular theme starts, and it's not the usual Godzilla march. And I'm listening to it, and this is when he's attacking Ginza, right? Before the first nuclear blast, before the girl gets killed that first time. And I'm listening to music, and then I hear da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. And what they've done is they've taken the theme music from Mothra versus Godzilla when Godzilla and Mothra are fighting, and they put that over this scene of him attacking the city. Now, okay, maybe this is the purest thing in me, but that song is a combination of Godzilla's theme coming together with Mothra's theme. They play individually, and then they clash and come together, symbolic of the two monsters coming together to fight. So it wouldn't go over that scene. It's not a Godzilla march. It's not a Godzilla battle march. It's a very specific score to that movie for that scene that it doesn't make any sense to pick up and drop and include a little clip of this Mothra motif in a movie without Mothra. Then they do the same thing later when Godzilla's destroying the battleships in the final battle. They play this weird little drum rhythm, which I immediately recognized is the song they play in King Kong versus Godzilla that puts King Kong to sleep. It's not a Godzilla themed song at all. It puts King Kong to sleep. Like, it's got nothing to do with Godzilla or marches. So they're cool themes. I understand they sound great. There's some of mine, but they do have meaning in those films, and when you pick them up and just drop them willy-nilly.
Right.
So to me, like, everyone's like, that's nitpicky. I've mentioned on the internet, and people are like, you're a gatekeeping annoying prick, and yes, I am. But it's kind of like if you watch Superman and he was flying through the sky and suddenly you heard like, and you just go, yes, I love that song. It's not for this guy.
Not appropriate.
And so
they did announce in advance.
My pedestal.
No, they did announce in advance that those two songs were going to be in it, though, because they released the soundtrack. But I understand what you're saying. Like, it's not where you'd expect to see them. I don't know. I think your Batman analogy is probably the most apropos. Like, Superman is also the Batman theme. You're like, that's not right.
Yeah.
You couldn't find another way to put that in?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and there's fun needle drops. Like I like when the Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla needle drop comes up in Final Wars. But like that's not a character motif. It was just a fun battle song.
Right.
It's not.
It doesn't have the same
It's
level.
not symbolically meanmeaningful to the
same
original
weight.
film that it was in. So it just kind of felt carelessly dropped. So that's a nitpick that kind of bugged me.
Yeah, that's
Anyway,
good.
this has been a positive review. I want to repeat, we have mentioned the things we don't like, but I overall think it's a really strong entry to the series. I'll put it in my top 10.
I think it's going to be in my top 10.
I like this sort of genre they're doing with Godzilla, where it's like, how do we beat Godzilla? There's like this, there's Shin, there's the first anime movie with Godzilla Earth.
That was pretty neat.
I like the first one where there was just like, how do we solve Godzilla?
Yeah.
And,
those are fun exercises.
Another thing I didn't like, though, I'll mention this. Godzilla regenerating in the end. I know he'd do it. I don't like you showing it because it really sort of takes the impact of their victory away.
It also makes the timeline until his return now a little easier for us to puzzle out because we're like, oh, soon.
Oh, yes.
Like if you don't show us that, nobody thinks this is the end of Godzilla. And if it is the end of Godzilla, then it's the end of this Godzilla. And that's fine because we're used to seeing different variations.
I'll be okay with this being just a standalone one-off if that's what they're going to do to Shin.
But the way at which they're doing it, it's like, oh, enjoy your 3 weeks of peace.
Yeah.
It's like, how long is it going to take for this guy to reconstitute? It's happening so fast.
Yeah. And which just sort of takes away the impact. Like, now it's not a happy ever after for Akiko and her two parents because Godzilla's still here and he's going to be mad.
He's going to show up at the wedding.
He's going to have a really cool scar head.
I object. Throws his plane at him. I object.
I did like when he would throw boats and stuff and they would look over. And so there's a lot of the stuff Godzilla does I do really like. And I guess it's a very traditional Godzilla review for me to go, I kind of didn't like a lot that the humans did.
I like the humans in this one more than I like in anything they've done in the Legendaries.
Oh, yeah, but that's a fucking low bar.
I mean, yeah.
A low bar.
But I think I'll remember. I'll remember these characters.
I like the human story in Shin Godzilla, where the dude is trying to overcome bureaucracy by being a dude who actually cares.
Yeah.
And also, I'd like to mention Shin Godzilla does a cliff ending too, right? Where Shin is frozen, but stuff might be growing out of him. Little baby Godzilla.
Yeah, but they actually mentioned that they're going to constantly keep him frozen, though. They talk about they're going to maintain.
Is that it's a cliffhanger ending because they're forced to maintain it, and it draws the parallel to Fukushima where they're forced to maintain this for life now. And it's a ticking clock that at any moment could start ticking again. It's just currently frozen.
Paused.
So I didn't feel like it undermined their victory in that.
Right. It's part of their victory.
I feel like it undermined their victory at the end of this.
I think that's fair. I was thinking about that too because it's like, oh, well, he's going to be back soon.
Do the sequel and reconstitute him at the sequel, but let them have the happy now.
He's only going to be 5 feet tall, it turns out.
Don't do the Freddy laugh, or don't do the Jason choo-ha-ha at the end. Let me think that they're going to get their happy ending for now.
Yeah, as a standalone, I think it's more powerful, because we know that that's not going to be the end of Godzilla. And if it, like I said, and if it is, fine, so be it. It's one movie.
If this version of Godzilla can't regenerate without its brain, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it's
like,
okay.
I cut off its head and now it can't live. Okay.
Yeah. And it kind of melts itself down too, because it's like all that stored up energy's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that have been a really great ending though? If like he's like melting down and the guy's in the ejector seat, it just it just cuts him in half.
They all salute. How hot is that if that thing's melting down and the sea's probably boiling?
Yeah,
they all salute. I don't there is that Japanese respect your enemy thing,
yes, but also I think
Godzilla's a dick.
But also I think for them though it was more symbolic of them like, all right, our tour of duty's over kind of thing. Or it's like it was a formidable foe, the war is over.
It felt like an honor to the fallen foe.
I liked it.
And like when they do the salute at the end of the first Godzilla, I kind of always thought they were saluting Serizawa, not Godzilla.
They certainly are.
So they certainly are. I'm kind of like, why are we saluting? Like Godzilla's not a worthy foe. He's so wild.
Did they know that Shirakawa or whatever his name is was even alive at that moment yet, or is it after the salute? They're like, hey, look, there he is. I can't remember which happens
first. It's not that long a pause.
Yeah, I can't remember which happens first.
You might get the bang, and then a couple seconds later you see the parachute. Yeah. But they don't leave you hanging too long.
Yeah. No, but I was like, are they saluting because they think he's dead? Maybe.
No, because even when they pull out and they're all doing, it's very obvious in the center of the shot is melting down Godzilla.
Yeah.
So you're not framing it that way.
He's already perished.
Yeah. You're not framing it that way unless you mean to tell me that they are saluting this melting down Godzilla.
I think so too.
So I think it's respect to the fallen foe. But
and I also think a little bit of like they're laying their burdens down.
Foe.
They're laying their burdens down finally. I liked it.
If he was such a good foe, why is he falling?
I give this a 10 out of 10. It is the best Godzilla movie ever made. And if you do... I think that's where we'll end
This is why I... No, this is why I'm gatekeeping. This is why I'm a gatekeeper. It's people like you.
It's not a 10 out of a 10 movie. I give it a bump to... If I had to give it a number, I'd say maybe an 8.
You could talk me... I've been saying 7 out of 10 all day. I could maybe bump it up.
7s are comfortable.
I could bump it up to 8 out of 10.
Dylan and I have this thought exercise. You can't say 7. It's either a 6 or an 8. You know, because 7 is so safe. So I'm like, okay, if I can't do 7, then I bump it up to an 8.
Oh, God, I might be inclined to dump 6.
I know.
She can't survive that blast. That's completely unearned ending.
Well, I think she can survive that blast.
She is more indestructible than Godzilla in this movie.
Just have her fight him next time.
Fine, 8 out of 10. Bring back Megalon!
Yeah. That's great. You just want your Jaguar. All right. Thanks for watching this episode of Drink Tank. I am not sure I edited out as much as I probably should have. So until next time.